Now, to go back to last night's football, I'm delighted to say we've got Vinny Perth with us. Vinny, good morning to you. How are you?
Morning, how's things?
I'm going to start with a quote from Napoleon. Ability is of little value without opportunity. I'd rather my generals be lucky than able. Nothing like a little bit of luck at the end of the game to go the way of the Ireland manager who, has, fair to say, wasn't particularly lucky in the first 10 games of his reign. But, I think he's going to be pretty happy with how things finished last night.
I don't know. I always felt he was a lucky general. I think you have to be, but there's no doubt in the first sort of part of his reign he wasn't lucky. But we go back a lot of stories over the years where he had a fair slice of luck, and you need that to get to the highest level. But no, there's no doubt at the start of this campaign we weren't lucky. So I was shocked how much injury time was played, and I think if that was a game of competitive nature, we would have heard the opposition really complain about it, because I think it was near 7 minutes when the goal was scored in a friendly, 0-0 friendly. Normally the board goes up and it's 2 minutes, so it was and believe it or not, I think it could be a big moment as well. Little moments like that where Troy obviously getting that brilliant goal, and you could tell what's the word for that, togetherness around the squad, the way they celebrated it in terms of players off the bench. Seamus, Duffy went to congratulate him, so you could tell it meant a lot. You can tell there's a building of a squad there and a team, and it was a really good moment for them last night.
Nathan made the point that 10 minutes after the full-time whistle there were still a massive amount of fans behind the goal as well. And look, we're trying to talk about a friendly against Lithuania, and at the same time I think you're right. I think that there's more to these little bits when you're trying to build a culture and you're trying to build a sense of identity. And what that identity of the team is, it's definitely a team that doesn't give up. It's a team that plays to the end. And it's also a team that has this very close link with the fans. And the manager has a very close link with the fans as well. And it's been a while since we've had that.
Yeah, I think the public relations, and I don't like using that word because I don't put that on Stephen's head, but the public relations, a lot of people and politicians can learn a lot from the way Stephen has managed himself. He's come across as somebody who's man of the people, a football person, and they've really got behind this team. There's no doubt about that. So last night was just another moment in that. I think there's no doubt there's a team ethic development. All good teams have to have that, or else be that good that it doesn't really matter that a world-class player can score a goal for you at different stages. So I would have said on this show over the last couple of years spoke about club teams like Wales, the way at the Euros they created this sort of yes, they had Gareth Bale for the big moments, but it was almost like a club culture. And from the outside looking in, I see that developing within the Irish squad. And once you have that, I think you'll go a long way in international football. So all of them things seem to be working well together. So again, as I said, small win last night in the sense of what was at stake, but these little moments are huge. They're huge in terms of it's only the coaches and the managers really that look back to these moments in league campaigns when someone scores a goal. I remember going back years in 2014, Darren Meenan, we were 0-0 in Athlone, and 93rd minute one of our players dived and Richie Tell scores a penalty and we win the league. For me, that was a huge moment. For everyone else, it means nothing. But that's what football is all about, these little moments. And last night was one of them that hopefully are part of bigger success down the road.
When you're talking about the Welsh example, what are the signs you're seeing about this Ireland squad that remind you of that kind of sense of them being more club than international at the moment?
I think unity. I think now, particularly a coach who's worked around, even in Ireland, in League of Ireland, the scrutiny of what you do on a daily basis in a club is huge. And I obviously had that scrutiny at a different level for different reasons at my last club. But I think you're getting such an insight into what players are thinking now because of social media, because of whether it's the FAI media team putting up training videos, etc. And you really get the sense that there's a unity about this team. There's a togetherness. There's you can see Duffy, Coleman, these people, real sort of strong characters in the dressing room, and you can just see, as I said, the joy the players had for Troy Parrott last night, not just the celebrations look after themselves, Viva Stadium last minute goal, but it was actually when the cameras continued to roll and you see
Callum Robinson came over to him,
different people going towards him. I think that was I think it's little things like that where you can see that development. You look at someone like Chidozie, you can tell he's infectious the way the players speak about him, and modern day players don't have to do that now anymore. They don't have to go out of the way. They can give you the sort of boring answers that you won't like in terms of radio contact, but they don't seem to do that around this squad, and it's a real sense of a team developing there.
Yeah, and so they set out the friendly against Belgium. Okay, you'd expect that, but then everybody knew Belgium weren't going to bring their superstars, and they still sold that out. And then there's a huge crowd last night for a game against Lithuania, and despite the fact that we can't score for 96 minutes, there's this sense of positivity around the team. It's amazing how quickly things can change in football.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I think we need to be careful as well. I mean, you listen. I happened to listen to yourself and Johnny discussing yesterday morning, and you're like, no, it's not all rosy in the garden either. There's areas of improvement. Last night was an area of concern in terms of a weaker team, and so if you put this into a group context. When we play the European Championship qualifier or World Cup qualifier, we play a seeded team, either first or second in an international window. And that second team that's below us in the seeding, we've got to do better against. And I still think that's an area of improvement for this team. We were very lucky ultimately to win the game last night, that last minute goal. So that's an area of concern. I know there was some changes, but we've got to do them things better. So there's loads of improvement. There's loads of areas that get better. I know we say that the squad is developing in the sense of strength and depth, but there's a lot of players very similar. And I'd have some questions on last night. Could we have done things better? Whether that was shape or whether that was personnel.
Let's get into them then. We've spoken, I'd say, historically over the last couple of years a good bit, Vinny, with you specifically about the number 10 role. We don't seem to have anybody at the moment who's particularly comfortable. And was that the main issue last night, that there wasn't actually anybody who was doing something slightly different?
Yes and no. I think I would question, and it's difficult. It's difficult for me in terms of how close I am to people within the setup to be critical. I would question. And it is so difficult. If you've got a style of play, the 3-4-2-1, whatever, different variants of that, that's Ireland's style now. We've developed into that. And I think that works against a lot of the top nations. Where I'm not personally in favour of that system is when you play against a team that's going to sit in, you've got, for example, you've got Matt Doherty who gives you the width out wide, but and at different stages you've maybe Chidozie running into the wide area. The difference in a slightly different system, whether that be some variant of a 4-3-3, is if Matt Doherty was playing fullback and he had an out-and-out winger ahead of him, you'd have two and you'd create 2v1s in the wide area against teams that sit in. So I think the shape against these teams is something, personally, I'd be a bit disappointed last night that in that, because it was a friendly, in that flip over between a top nation, being Sweden, and then going to a team that we should be, with 78% possession in the first half. Didn't create an awful lot. People are saying we'd 4 goals ruled out for offside, but they were offside, and you wouldn't get them in a game, particularly if VAR was in. So that's a concern. I think the number 10 position, I think Will Keane, I've seen him at Wigan, I've gone and seen him live there. And people say, well, it's League One. They're about to be promoted, hopefully, to the Championship. I think that's good for Irish football, that them and Rotherham get promoted. But he's an outstanding number 10. Didn't really play. He's not an out-and-out centre-forward for me. So I wonder, could we have changed the shape up a little bit last night against a lesser nation and maybe tried something different? We'd nothing to lose. Or else, like, the management are entitled to say, no, we're 3-4-2-1 team. But that's a concern for me, because we have struggled against those type of teams that sit in against us.
Do you think
the results haven't been good?
Do you think that maybe there's a case-by-case basis here? So let's spool forward to the Nations League, and it's Armenia. that maybe when he's not giving Nathan Collins a start and he's not getting Darragh O'Shea back into the team, that he might actually go and play a different formation for that game, because he'll have had his first choice. He'll definitely be picking his strongest team for that competitive game. There'll be no rotation of players. That actually, in that instance, that maybe last night was a horses for courses selection, that they wanted to give Collins and O'Shea game time in that three at the back scenario, because if, for example, the injuries are what we think they might be in the summertime, we're playing Scotland and they haven't played there, then it's a huge leap for them.
Yeah, but the only issue with that is we're not stuck at centre half. It's not where our real problems are. They're not problems as such, but where we've got to get better is in midfield areas. So, and look, it's okay if you're Chelsea, because you're going to win most games playing that system. It's okay if you're Man City and you say, we're not going to play centre forward today, we're going to dominate, we're the best team in your league. It's okay to be Shamrock Rovers in League of Ireland because you know you're going to have most of the ball. But Ireland aren't any of them teams. We're not the best team. We're middle ranked in most groups we'll come into. We're looking to punch above our weight. And I only asked a simple question. Did we miss an opportunity last night of trying a different system, different shape in a team that we're going to dominate against? So do we need three centre halves? I take your point, and I would imagine that's if I had this out with Stephen, I'm no longer that's no longer my role in life. But if I had it out with Stephen, he'd probably make that point you've just made. But I think modern day football is all about different systems, managing the opposition and coming up with different scenarios. So you will find that I think we played really well under Stephen against top teams by and large, and we've struggled under teams that aren't as good. So that's my area of concern. What we can't do is, when the Euros come around or World Cup come around, have an amazing performance against a Germany or a Belgium as we did tonight, and then drop silly points against a team because we don't have a cutting edge and we're short of that number 10 position, as we keep saying. I mean, Alan Brown looks like a goal threat every time he plays for me, but it doesn't mean we have to start Alan Brown every time, but come up with a scenario where someone like Alan Brown can come into the team when we play the lesser nations. But again, probably repeat myself a lot there, but
no, it makes perfect sense. And the opportunity cost on one hand is that you will go into a big game without your young players having experience of the system you're going to play in the big games, and the other side of that is that you don't know what to do against the lesser opponents. So if you'd had your opportunity,
that's why you played the big bucks share. Like, to be fair, and it's easy for me to sit here and come up with a different argument to it. That's all.
So what would the other formation be if you were actually trying to build a team to beat Armenia? You know, because those points are going to count as much in the end as and if you drop those points, they're the ones that end up really wrecking your CV. So what would you have done last night, for example?
Well, for example, last night, could we have played with 2 eights of, like, you look at Hourihane, who I think is a highly underrated player. You look at the position he played for Aston Villa at that time, where he had Jack Grealish. He was outstanding at times in terms of that number 8, just off the left-hand side. Grealish was allowed roam. So if you imagine, if you replace Grealish with someone like a Troy Parrott playing ahead of him, then Hourihane covered that position. He's done it before, club level, at the highest level, Premiership. Brown as another number 8, and somebody sitting in behind him in terms of that type of midfield.
So Josh Cullen, basically.
Josh Cullen, obviously, yes. In terms of that position, can we get, Matt Doherty is a fullback. If Enda Stevens is fit, another fullback, and say to them, right, we're playing Armenia here. Like, if you think of our current shape, a lot of our attacks are down the centre of the pitch. We're hoping that Robinson and Obenya spin out to the side. But against a team that's going to sit in, make the pitch really narrow, then you've got to hurt them down the sides, for me. And that's where I would have went with a different system last night, or certainly would have asked the question or went to it at some stage in the middle of the game. Now, it is difficult, trying to teach people how to play in these systems. But I think the modern day player can adjust the systems. They'll go back to their clubs, these players, and play, like, they play all sorts of different systems. As I said, go back to Will Keane. He plays as a number 10 for Wigan, and he's outstanding at that role as well. Alan Brown plays in all sorts of formations. Sometimes he's a wing back. for Preston at a really high level, the Championship. So probably a little bit of a missed opportunity for me, but I completely understand why you do it. It's about getting results at the moment. It's about the rhythm and the pattern of play. And I think the system we have at the moment is brilliant against the better teams. So be under no illusions. I'm not criticising the way we're playing. I think the way he played against Belgium was excellent, caused some huge problems. And if that was a competitive game, albeit Belgium would have better players there. I like the style of what they're doing. I just think we have to have a plan B and start to develop that over the next number of months.
Have you seen any or significant evolution in our style in the last 12 months?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, I think we all know we started with a flat back four. We played with one number 6 and 2 number 8s. It didn't work. And yeah, I'm calling for that to a point, but it didn't work against good opposition. We were too exposed in the midfield at different stages. But I think when you go back to last night, for example, because it was the second game in the campaign, and again, that's where we need to learn from. I think Chidozie wasn't as explosive as he was against Sweden. Still played quite well. I thought Robinson wasn't as explosive again as he was the other night. So again, that's why we didn't look at plan B. But how we developed, we've got the ball forward a little bit quicker, not direct, not long balls, but we've used our pace and our movement down the side. People haven't really noticed, but at different stages against Belgium, the interaction between the front three with Jason Knight, sometimes as almost like the false nine, was brilliant. He went up the pitch and back the pitch. He was excellent. I think he's a real find. I think it was only a matter of time before people seen the quality he had. I know everyone's talking about Derby now, but we would have spoken the show maybe 9 months ago, and we were speaking about Jason Knight might overtake the Conleys, the Parrots of the world in terms of the squad. So the pool of players have really developed, but we've a lot of players that are very similar. That's the concern. Like,
yeah,
a lot of good centre halves, a lot of good midfielders.
I'm out of time here, but what's Jason Knight's best position for Ireland, and does he have to start? Because it feels like he just brings. Now maybe he can't start every game because he's so young and the explosiveness won't be there game on game. But like, I want him in the team.
Yeah, I think it depends on the opposition, and that's. In one sense, that's a lazy answer with a lot of detail behind that, because it depends on the opposition. If you look at the position Jamie McGrath played against Portugal, I think he's brilliant at that position. But I also think against, for want of a better word, if we're going to stick with this shape against lesser opposition, you could play much more central and allow Robinson and Chidozie play in those areas, as we spoke about, those sort of half and half centre forwards in between the opposition fullbacks and centre halves. So I think he's right on that limit where, yes, he's a bit like Josh Cullen. He sort of slowly came into the team and now probably deserves to play. And I think if he got games over the summer, I think once the summer is over, he'd head into the Euros as one of our starting 11. I think he stepped up to the plate. It'd be interesting to see what happens with my club level as well, because it looks like Derby will go down. So. Yeah. Will he end up at a championship club? And I think that's okay. I think a longer discussion, we must get into it one day, but I was looking at something over the weekend and I could only count 12 Premiership players, and I was including Evan Ferguson, who got some game time at Brighton, so he's just a young lad coming through. It's okay to have a team, going back to Wales, of championship players playing at really good standard week in, week out. That's a really high level. The level of the bar, like back in 2012, we had nearly 40 players in the Premiership at Premiership clubs getting some game time when we qualified for Euros that time. So the numbers are right down, but it's okay now to be championship based for the Ireland squad, with a bit of sprinkling magic on top of that would be good enough. So yeah, it's certainly a lot of positives. As much as I went on about a bit of negative there, a lot of positives. Things are really come together, and stuff we said would happen has started to happen.
Vinny, good stuff. Great to have you with us. Thanks a million.
Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.
That's Vinny Perth giving us his thoughts there this morning on the Republic of Ireland situation. Always thoughtful in the aftermath of those games. It's 8:37.